This is video blog 2.1, focusing on the relationship between technology and society. And today I'll be discussing the technology, in particular a vehicle control technology. So think of the systems that we currently have in our vehicles, such as collision avoidance, anti-lock brakes, stability control, traction control, active cruise control, and then the ultimate evolution of this technology, which will be a self-driving car, completely removing control from the driver themselves. So we can trace the root of these technologies back to the convenience features that have been added in the past. These would be items like automatic transmission, power brakes, power steering. And the idea behind this was to make it easier for anyone to operate a vehicle. With this, we can draw a parallel between the example offered by Pinch and Bijker in the text and the evolution of the bicycle. If you look at examples of penny farthing bicycles compared to modern bicycles, you can see they're quite dissimilar, although they share the same general components. Using the Scott approach, the social construction of technology, it gives us insight into the why behind this dissimilarity. Yes, the technology improved, and it changed the shape of the bicycle, but there was also the equally important guiding hand of social acceptance. So technology and society worked together in the evolution of the bicycle, and the need to have it adapt to the requirements of society, so it wasn't completely technology driven. Applying this approach to automobiles, we see the same dissimilarity between the early vehicles and the modern vehicles of today. Again, it was some of that requisite component similarity. The greater societal influence was in who would use the car and how it would be used. As the acceptance of cars increased, the automobile came to have two meanings to its owners. So the first is rather obvious. It's the utilitarian purpose, transportation, getting from point A to point B. But the second was a projection of social status. And here think of luxury vehicles versus economy vehicles. One could argue that the underlying social status implications of vehicle ownership drove the convenience feature evolution as a continuation of class separation, haves and have-nots in vehicles. This is also an attribute of Winner's conversation around the politics of artifacts and their influence on values. Another societal influence, as we saw with Pinch and Bijker's example, was the influence of women in the technological advancement of bicycles. So if we look at the automobile, we have power steering, power brakes, and automatic transmissions, which made it easier for women to drive, which increased the appetite of the public to acquire more vehicles and, again, sell more vehicles. In fact, back in 1957, Harley Earl, who was a GM design engineer, said he credited women with inspiring increased beauty in car interiors and for the rapid growth of power accessories. So fast forward to today, and we can see that the vehicle control technology is an extension of this past development, but it's more focused on safety than convenience. Again, the social construct is present. I want my vehicle to get me to my destination. I want to get there in comfort. I want it to protect the occupants, essentially my family, and also provide a level of status. In addition, automobiles and the automobile lifestyle that they support, or the mobile lifestyle they support, I should say, are an embedded part of our culture. Hughes talks to this in the discussion of technological momentum. Regarding the automobile, and particularly if we look at the U.S., I wholeheartedly agree with this concept. Comparing other Western nations with the U.S., there is a clear distinction between the levels of public transportation alternatives they provide compared to the automobile-focused system in the U.S. And this is directly the influence of the broader technological system of the automobile. As Hughes indicates, it is easier to keep this monstrous system going than to radically change it. So we instead innovate around it. And that is exactly what we're doing as we develop these safety technologies. We're innovating around the automobile. If we look at how the current technology or the control systems shape the way people behave, we must go back and look at the reason for their development. So the convenience features made it easier for anyone to operate a vehicle, but they also disengage the operator from the driving experience. If I don't have to manually shift gears and I can drive with one finger on the steering wheel, it's very easy to lose focus on the core activity of driving. This leads to drivers being distracted, which is a significant cause of accidents. Looking at the U.S. government website for distracted driving, they cite that in 2014, over 3,000 people were killed and over 431,000 people were injured in motor vehicle crashes that involved distracted drivers. One might think there's some other technology, such as cell phones, navigation systems, entertainment systems, that are a major cause of this distraction. And they do play their part. They've actually been incorporated into infotainment systems within the vehicle as a matter of convenience. Again, going back to the convenience features as opposed to the safety features. But we also must have to consider the expected social behavior. Right, so talking to passengers is a major distraction. But again, societal norms dictate that there's an expectation of conversation when people sit close to each other. So if we look at the technologies I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, excluding the self-driving car itself, the safety technology is designed to compensate for the shortcomings of human behavior. People can't be expected to control distractions, so we will engineer solutions that protect people from themselves. But the technology also removes control from people, instead providing reliance on technology and not themselves. This is truly epitomized in the form of a self-driving vehicle where the human is completely removed from the process. But how much control would one want to give up? How comfortable would it be to sit behind the wheel traveling at highway speeds with the driver completely isolated from the act of driving? And how would mechanical failure be dealt with? So this can create a direct conflict between the individual and the technology. If I stay with the example of the self-driving car, what if the driver feels the need to take control, but the vehicle won't relinquish control? Or another conflict is responsibility. If my car is driving itself, essentially I'm only a passenger, and it takes action that causes an accident, well, who's at fault? I wasn't driving the car, was I? The car was the one who was driving. Does the car have its license revoked? And then who's responsible for the damage? Is it me as the owner of the vehicle? Or do I go back and say the manufacturer is the one that's responsible since they programmed it to drive in the first place? The implications of these conflicts on relationships and behavior derive from some of these questions. The one area where I see a potentially negative aspect would be in the area of responsibility. I looked at Elliot Cohen, who writes in Psychology Today that one of the most destructive human pastimes is blaming others instead of accepting personal responsibility. It's self-centered behavior that also manifests itself in the incidents we see and hear about with road rage and aggressive driving. The technology of the self-driving vehicle offers the promise of eliminating this type of behavior by giving control over to the machine. But does it also have a deeper impact within the social fabric of encouraging, enabling, blaming behavior? If we can blame technology instead of accepting responsibility, I would argue that we are reinforcing that type of behavior. And this is exactly what we must be aware of when we give up control to technology. Neither the technology nor humans are perfect, and substituting technology for human control is not a panacea.